to another day at the Dope World on Dope World TV. I'm Casey, and today we have Shadow in visiting with us. So we did previously have an interview with him, and he wants to share his story about how him and Carlos met.
I met Carlos, I want to say, during a fight, and we were at a party at on the telephone road complex. And it was weird because the party was at an apartment complex and right next door was a police station. When it happened, I remember everybody was like, we were kids, so it was like a fight, it's like, oh, it's going down, what I'm saying? So we go outside, what I'm saying? Sure enough, we hear Billy Stout and Roddy Martinez, and they're fighting by the pool, in the courtyard or whatever. Because the police station was right next door, cops just started, they showed up oh man, it was weird because we were about, I would say we were about 13, 14 in middle school. And so we all, like roaches, we just all ran. So everybody was going their own separate direction. Everybody lived around that same area. And I remember my brother, well, I can say my brother, but my best friend, Joe Medina, my brother, we were running and we had to run across because it was right next to this movie house, and we ran across that whole park. And we hid for about 30 minutes until the helicopters were coming out. The next day, how it all comes back at that time, and Carlos, the next day I was like, man, what happened? I actually called from the home phone. We were like, man, he ain't answering. We gotta go and walk to his house. So we go to there. What happened? Oh man, it was Carlos and Billy. Like, who's Carlos? Carlos. Oh, you don't know Carlos? Oh man, Coy. No, I don't know Carlos. I thought he was a big guy. The way it made him sound like he was just like Carlos Coy, man. He's
the big fish.
Yeah, he's because he had a reputation. Yeah, oh man, it's funny. When I just seen him, I was like, that's Carlos Coy. He was small and he had this nasally voice. It's just like this weirdo. But honestly, he had this reputation. Him and Billy had this reputation of being, the bad kids in the neighborhood. There was an incident that happened where Carlos and them were fighting again. And I want to say Billy Stout shot a shotgun at somebody, Adrian Lopez. And Adrian Lopez comes to my house and he got, butt shots in his nose. I used to sell, my brother and I used to sell pot, right? We used to sell weed. And we would bargain, we barter weed, really. Because people didn't have money, but Adrian came on his bike, his bamboo's bike. And I was like, man, you all right? And we fixed him up there. Man, I like the bike, man. What you give me, what you want for that bike, you know what I'm saying? Man, he's a half ounce, you know what I'm saying?
Oh my goodness.
And I ended up getting this bike, and I'll never forget, because I used to go ride all the way down where Carlos lived. But that's how I met Carlos, was through Billy Stout, having fights with Roddy Martinez. And I was at Carlos, my brother's house, and Carlos came in. I'm like, Coy, is that the guy? So I hadn't seen him in a long time. Yeah, he's rapping now.
All right.
Oh shit, and I'm making this beat, and I can't remember it, but I was making this beat, and then in the back of the room, I hear this, and he's flowing though, you know what I'm saying? And I'll never forget it because he was wearing this Freddy Krueger shirt. It was red with blue stripes, you know what I'm saying? And he had this Mickey's or maybe a 40 ounce, right? And he's in the background. He was kind of chubby, you know what I'm saying? Shit, I was like, I'll never forget because I hear this whining, what do they call it? Nasally, you know what I'm saying? Mosquito, you know what I'm saying?
Buzzing around.
Buzzing in my ear, and I'm making this beat. I'm looking back, I'm like, what the hell? And it's Carlos. I heard a lot of people in the street, because we were all rapping for Southside Coalition, and I would hear that he would get on a bus and he would ride to the edge of town, and walk home selling his CD. I don't know how true that is, but I could see it. That's the kind of hustler he was. And he started showing up because we would go to all the car shows and stuff like that. And that was like our thing. And he started doing the same thing, which was, and I would see him in the restroom, and he'd get a piece of gum and put up a poster, and they would kick him out of every restroom. The security, they would kick him, and I would hear stories like, "I mean, you girls got kicked out of the restroom." I said, "I bet you he's in the other restroom on the other side of the thing." And he was a born hustler, so that's one thing I liked about Carlos, coming up, is that if anything, they weren't going to stop him from trying to sell his CD. He had that knack for just being a born hustler. Next thing you know, Aggravated breaks up, and I got introduced to Patrick Lewis doing all this stuff, and I was working with, my brother started working with Patrick Lewis and Jam Down.
And then, like, how was that transition from the Jam Down to Dope House?
That's a crazy story. That's the coolest thing that ever happened, was the transition from Jam Down to Dope House, because Carlos had came to Jam Down. Jam Down was a little studio. It was a Southeast Business Park, and they had a little studio there. It was off of Telephone Road and Griggs. Most Hated was part of Jam Down. And Carlos comes in, and Patrick Lewis was there as usual. And I think Carlos was kind of, which he probably shouldn't have been drinking and driving, but I know he had just showed up from Lake Jackson, because he had just told me that he bought 2 pit bull. In the back seat of the car, he had 2 pits, and I want to say those 2 pits were Piglet, and I can't remember the other dog. Do you remember, Carly? Piglet and God, I can't remember his dog. Rolex. That's what it was. It was Piglet and Rolex. So he goes in the Jam Down. And I said, "Well, I'm gonna go inside. I got some feeling." I'm telling you. He goes in the Jam Down, and Carlos sees Patrick. Because Patrick wasn't always there, but he was there, and Carlos was tipsy, and I know he was, because he just looks at Patrick.
You just can tell.
I can tell. And Carlos and Patrick goes, "Hey, what are you doing?" He was Jamaican. He was from the islands. I wouldn't say Jamaican, but he's from the islands and the Caribbean. And he was like, "Hey, what are you doing, Carlos? What are you doing here in my neck of the woods?" And Carlos was like, "Nah, man, I'm just getting by, just chill out, you know what I'm saying? I'm Shadow and Jose and da da da." And out of the blue, Carlos says, "I'm gonna have the biggest record label in Texas. I'm just gonna blow up." Patrick Lewis to the T says, "Come on, Carlos. You're nothing but a comedian rapper. I'm telling you, I'm gonna have the biggest record label." And he walked out. When he walked out, I walked out with him.
Do you have any new projects coming along right now?
Absolutely. I am working on a project right now. Carlos called me about 3 weeks ago, and he told me that he wanted to do a rendition of a song that we used to do that we did in the past called I Need a Sweet. This time he wants to do I Need a Slap. This is Shadow. Thank you for watching another day of the Dope World on Dope World TV. And we out, right, Casey?
Yes, found it.